Hello, my name is Ivan Taylor and I'm from Ontario, Canada. And you can see from the backdrop here, the skyline of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And that's the Canadian National Tower, which at one time was the largest freestanding structure in the world. Toronto is near my hometown in Ontario. I'd like to talk today about some work that some colleagues and I are doing on institutional change to control corruption. And my two colleagues are Aman Ullah and Mark Sandoval. Aman Ullah is from Pakistan and Mark Sandoval is from Costa Rica. And we looked at 14 institutions under two categories of governance and development. And we're focused on control of corruption, but we also looked at the impact of voice and accountability, political stability, rule of law, government effectiveness, regulatory quality, attitude towards corruption, and organized crime. And on development, we looked at economic openness, government expenditure, inflation, GDP growth, GDP per capita, control of inequality, and direct foreign direct investment. So Aman Ullah developed this structural diagram showing the connections between the institutions. And we can see here in the upper left-hand corner, we have the governance institutions, and down here in the lower right-hand corner, these are mostly the economic institutions. And you can see that they're connected to corruption in the middle, either directly or indirectly. And we use this structure to build our system dynamics model. And you can see here the stock and flow diagram that we developed in Vensim. And we developed a stock and flow diagram where each institution represented a stock, and the value for the stock was representing the quality of that institution. And we looked at the progress in improving the quality, or possibly negative progress, or going the wrong direction, when we compare the current situation for control of corruption against the initial control of corruption. And we had this idea of a goal and a gap. So we have this goal, we have a current value, and we close the gap between the goal and the current value over a period of time. And we show here a target control of corruption that's based on the goals of the government of the day. And then we'll have different targets for different governments. And we'll have this idea of a multiplier, which we'll get into, which we'll use to estimate effort to change the pattern in the future. Now, we have a target that's specified by the government of the day, but we note that the target may not be reached. It may be either enhanced or inhibited by progress in other institutions that we connected in these structural diagrams. So here we have control of corruption directly impacted by progress in control of organized crime, progress in voice and accountability, progress in control of inflation, and progress in control of income inequality. And basically, we have 14 views in Vensim, one for each of the institutions, where each institution is a stock, and then we have the differences in these institutions are based on the connections through these progress values to the other institutions. So we were fortunate enough to collect data for 1996 to 2019. And we got this data from the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, and the International Monetary Fund. And we were able to, this was in many different scales, but we converted it all to being a 0 to 1 scale, where 1 is a perfect institutional quality and 0 is perfect neglect of the institution. And then we took this data and we calibrated our model to get a good match to the historical data. And then we use the calibrated model to project into the future if nothing changes. And then we also use the calibrated model to consider policy implications or policy changes that could improve the control of corruption. So this data from the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, and the International Monetary Fund is available for almost every country in the world. And I'm going to show you today the application to these 4 African countries. I chose these 4 countries because I have associates in these countries that were able to provide me with some face validation of the results. So one of the things that you might find interesting in this work is that we took our VenSim model and we converted it to an Excel spreadsheet, and then we used macros to extract the data from the databases and build generic models for all of the different countries. So I'll just show you how the model works. So I'll put in Kenya, and it will extract the data from the databases. And then it'll ask me for the election cycle for Kenya. And I've already added the elections in Kenya over the period 1996 to 2019. So I'll just accept these values. And then the program generates the model, the system dynamics model, and then it starts the calibration process. So here is the model being developed, and then we have the calibration process, and we calibrate the model by minimizing the sum of the squared error for all of the institutions at the same time for each election period. So now it's doing the minimizing the sum of squared error for the 2002 election, and now the 2007 election. And it'll continue doing that for a little while, so we'll have to be patient. So it's just finishing up here with the 2019 election, and it's going to finish the minimizing the sum of squared error. And here's the calibration of the model with the projection. So we have data from 1996 to 2019 in blue. We have the calibration of the model in pink with a projection from 2019 to 2026. And we can see that for Kenya, the values were quite low at around 34 out of 100 to start with. They dropped, but then started to increase slowly, and we project that they will continue to increase in the near future. And we can look at the calibration of the other institutions. So here's GDP growth, here's GDP per capita, here's government expenditure, here's income inequality, here's control of inflation, here's economic openness, here's government effectiveness, here's political stability, here's regulatory quality, here's rule of law, voice and accountability, attitude towards corruption, and control of organized crime. So now we can go back to our model, and we can say, we know, we have an idea what the future might hold for Kenya. And the question is, could we develop policies to improve the control of corruption? So we have this idea of multipliers where the multiplier 1 stands for the current status quo. And And then we look at we look at applying effort to increase the quality of the institutions by adding some value to the multipliers. So here we'll do an improvement. We'll try to improve the quality of the control of corruption by adding some extra effort, and we'll just add 1 unit of effort. And we can see that in this case, we would allocate 15% more effort to rule of law and 85% more effort to control of organized crime. And we can see here that we can get a much larger increase in the control of corruption by allocating more effort to improve those 2 institutions. We can also look at targeting the values. So targeting the effort. So here we have all of the institutions, and I just did a broad brush sort of 10% increase in effort for across all of the institutions, and compared this with a 10% decrease in the effort for all the institutions. So if I run this these scenarios, I get these results here, and you can see that that the increase from adding 10% to across all the institutions gives you this best case, and the decrease of 10% gives you this worst case, and the expected case is in blue. And you can see that that possibly it would be better to target the investment into certain institutions. So let's move on to the next country. So I'll bring up Nigeria. And here is the calibrated model for Nigeria. You can see that there is a lot of ups and downs in this. It's fairly low at 30 out of 100 or less. And you can see that the projection is that at least in 2019, it looked like things were going to improve, but then things, the institutional quality factors came into play for our projection to look like it's going to decline in the near future. Now we can look now at trying to improve the quality or they can improve the control of corruption. And we will allocate a unit of effort to do that. And we can see here that we would spread the effort around 5 institutions, with 50% of the effort being pushed into control of income inequality, 8% of the effort to control inflation, 24% of the effort to improve the rule of law, 8% to improve voice and accountability, and 10% to improve the control of organized crime. And by allocating this effort, we can get a very large increase in the control of corruption. So by targeting this effort, we can see the sensitivity of these institutions on control of corruption. And we can do these scenario analysis again, and we can see here that yes, the Nigerian case is that effort across the board to improve the institutions can have a large impact on control of corruption, and the neglect of those institutions can have a large negative effect. So, so it seems like that if Nigeria applies effort, it can improve its control of corruption. So let's move on to the next country. So we'll close that and bring up South Africa. And here is South Africa. You see South Africa started a little higher than the other countries at around 55 out of 100. It increased for a while, then it started a steady decline. And we project that if nothing changes, it will continue to decline in the future. And we can look at trying to to apply effort to improve the situation. So if we apply a unit of effort, we see here that the optimal application would be to try to control income inequality, and we can see that this will turn the trend around, and you can have some growth in control of corruption by allocating resources to control income inequality. And we can run the scenarios again where we have a 10% increase or a 10% decrease in the effort, and we can see that the allocation of effort across the board is having limited impact on the control of corruption, which might suggest that we would like to target our efforts to improve certain institutions over other institutions. So there seems to be very little sensitivity here to the effort. So then we will close that and get the last country up. So the last country is Zambia. And we can see that Zambia started at around 41, increased for a number of years to 45, and then started to see a sharp decline in recent years. And we project that if nothing changes, this will further decline in the future. And so the question is, can we turn this around? So if we allocate effort to trying to improve the control of corruption, we can get this kind of allocation to income inequality, to regulatory quality, and to rule of law. And we can get this quite a significant improvement in the situation for Zambia. And if we run the model again for the 3 scenarios, we get this picture, which shows that that improving the institutional quality can have a huge effect on improving the control of corruption compared to the status quo. So that's the 4 countries that I wanted to show you today. And if you're interested in applying this model to other countries, you can contact us. And if you're interested in other use of these models, of this model, you feel free to get in touch with us. And concluding remarks, we developed a system dynamics model of the institutional relationships in a country that could be, and we collected data to diagnose quality trends in these institutions. And then we found that these institutional relationships had an impact on control of corruption. And if we could solve some of the quality problems in these institutions, we can have a positive impact towards controlling corruption. Thank you very much.